This is the AB4WS radio show. Every week, bringing you the exciting amateur radio news and information happening in the greater Cincinnati, Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana areas.
The AB4WS radio show can be found on the Apple Podcast app or your favorite podcast application. And now also available on the AB4WS radio show YouTube channel. Today I received an email which is probably one of the most treasured compliments I have received in my ham radio career. This all started back in October when I received an email which I read and reread several times since I really didn't believe it and thought for sure someone was pranking me. You see, for years I have enjoyed listening to ham radio podcasts, even way before the days we're now in with tons of amateur radio YouTube videos. One of my favorite podcasts was the QSO Today Show with Eric Guth, 4Z1UG. Eric has interviewed several hundred ham radio operators, some more than once, who are the mover and shakers of the world of amateur radio. Some of the famous people Eric has interviewed include Bob Heil, K9EID, Art Bell, W6OBB, Rob Sherwood, NC0B, Jonathan Naylor, G4KLX, Ward Silver, N0AX, Tim Duffy, K3LR, Joe Eisenberg, K0NEB, Thomas Witherspoon, W4SWL, and most recently, Salty Walt, W4OGO. Eric had sent me an email asking if I would be interested to being interviewed on his show. I responded even though I was certain that someone was pranking me, and I received a return email and a schedule that was set up for the interview to take place on November 14th, 2024. I was still in disbelief until the connection with Eric was made over the video using Google Meet. I was so excited to be on his podcast and to talk with him. I was like a kid at Christmas time. I was going to be a guest on a podcast I had listened to for years with all those other famous ham radio personalities. I felt like I had just won the World Series, the Super Bowl, and a Grammy Award, all at the same time. Eric explained some of the illness that he was going through and said that the podcast would be published in a few weeks. I didn't want to share my joy until the podcast was out there, and unfortunately, Eric's health took a turn for the worse, along with his wife's health. Time went by and no podcast. Periodically, I would check on reports of Eric's health and see if he had published anything, and prayed that his health would improve. I began to think about it less and less, although I was still flattered that he even took the time to interview me. Well, today I got an email from Eric, which talked about some of the health hurdles he had overcome and apologized for the delay in getting out the podcast, but that he had finally been able to publish the podcast. With all that Eric has been through, and for him to take the time, still not being back to health, to publish this podcast, I feel more honored than ever before. I encourage everyone to go listen to some of the podcast interviews that Eric has conducted, and I think that you will also enjoy and learn some of the neat and interesting things. Most importantly, you will come to the conclusion that he is one of the best people you will ever have an opportunity to listen to. The Northern Kentucky Amateur Radio Club had a very successful Parks on the Air event on May 10th at the Big Bone Lick State Historic Site US 3779, which is also on the Lewis and Clark Trail, US 4572, which makes it a twofer. At one time, there was as many as 8 stations set up to operate at the park with a huge turnout of members and non-members who had fun at the event. At least one non-member was heard on a local repeater telling another ham who had not been there what a great time he had there operating POTA. At the time of the broadcast, those that operated who turned in their logs into the club to be posted in the Club POTA page, giving both the club and the individual ham radio operator credit for their contacts and activations, had up to 105 contacts for the event from the 5 operators who submitted their logs. Many people are already looking forward to the next Club Parks on the Air event. Congratulations to the Burning River Traffic Net, who on April 15, 2025 achieved a milestone of celebrating their 50th anniversary as being an active net, contributing to the Amateur Radio Relay League's national traffic system. Starting in 1975, the Burning River Traffic Net has relayed formal messages to the Cleveland, Ohio area and north central Ohio, fostering a strong sense of community among amateur radio operators. If you are not familiar with the national traffic system or radiograms, check out the upcoming training at the Amateur Radio Emergency Team of Northern Kentucky meeting on June 2nd. There was a band opening on 2 meters last Sunday on 147.060, and I was hearing stations in Bedford, Indiana, Martinsville, Indiana, and Newtown, Ohio, all talking near full quieting through a couple different repeaters. So roll out of bed early and put that 2-meter rig in scan and see what area repeaters you can hear. Or better yet, put some calls out on 146.520 simplex and enjoy the good conditions. 2-meter band openings in the morning are always fun, and I'm hearing multiple repeaters on the same frequency, which is always fun to listen to. Sad news to report that Ted Randall, WB8PUM, recently became a silent key. Ted owned the shortwave station WTWW that used to broadcast multiple amateur radio talk shows every week until WTWW went off the air a few years ago. WTWW even did a few live broadcasts for Ham Nation when Bob Heil was hosting the show. For many years, Ted would broadcast live from many of the major ham fests. I love listening to Ted Randall's shows, and in particular his podcasts, the QSO radio show. Also sad news that William Whittam, N4VDJ of Bowling Green, Kentucky, has become a silent key. Prayers to his family and friends. Are you a young ham between the age of 11 and 21 and planning to attend the Dayton Hamvention? Well, register for the ARRL Youth Rally today, and a day full of activities, discovery, sharing, and fun with other young hams. Registration is $20 and includes an ARRL Youth Rally t-shirt, badge and lanyard, tote bag, and free Hamvention admission ticket for all 3 days of the show. Go to ARRL.org and select Youth Rally. The application period for Youth on the Air Junior Camp 2025 is open until June 1st for young hams under 15 years of age accompanied by a parent. The Yoda Junior is a 3-day weekend camp for young hams to meet other young hams, participate in a unique experience with radio-related technologies, build relationships with mentors and peers. To apply, go to youthontheair.org/JRCAMPAPPLY. The Youth on the Air program is in need of your financial support. Thanks to Garmin, Yoda is holding a silent auction for a Garmin Vivio Active 5 GPS smartwatch. The auction started on May 12th and will end on May 31st at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. To put in your bid, go to youthontheair.org. The Silver Creek Amateur Radio Association is inviting clubs to participate in their Northeast Ohio Multi-Club Parks on the Air POTA event on Saturday, May 31st, 2025. This event is geared to promote ham radio, your club, and Parks on the Air, and to encourage club collaboration. It is not only fun, but easy to do as well. For information or to sign up for the event, go to w8wky.org/neo-POTA. If your club is interested in participating, please contact Josh Van Dyke at KE8VKA@gmail.com. The 2025 Kentucky QSO Party is quickly approaching. Sponsored by the Kentucky Contest Group, it is always held on the first Saturday in June from 1300 hours UTC on June 7th to 0100 hours UTC on June 8th, which is 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time on Saturday, June 7th. You can help put Kentucky front and center on the HF bands by activating your station and your county. You might consider a multi-operator situation with a well-equipped station, or perhaps if you're a Parks on the Air person, select some parks that you could easily activate throughout the day. Spread the word throughout your ham radio friends and especially the many clubs across the Commonwealth. Let's make the Commonwealth radioactive. I hope to see you on the air. For more information, go to kyqsoparty.org. Do you know how to send a radiogram? Well, on June 2nd at 7 p.m., the Amateur Radio Emergency Team in Northern Kentucky at the Bethesda Community Church at 989 East Mount Zion Road in Independence, Kentucky will hold a meeting in which Al, WB8RGE, will be doing a presentation along with some hands-on on how to send and handle a radiogram. So come on out to the meeting and learn how you too can handle amateur radio traffic. You never know when you will need to handle a radiogram, so this training is applicable to all ham radio operators. The MS Bike Ride will be held on June 14th and 15th, 2025 in my old Kentucky home state park, 501 East Stephen Foster Avenue in Bardstown, Kentucky. They're looking for amateur radio operator volunteers to keep communication flowing over the 25 to 60 mile route, checking on riders, assisting the MS staff, and providing support for the biker with water, transport, or aid as needed. You can sign up for a full or partial shift, and you will be fully briefed on your assignment and responsibilities. You'll need to have a mobile dual band radio or at least a dual-band handheld with enough battery power to carry you through your shift. If you are interested, email kg2des@outlook.com and copy nf8d@gmail.com with your call sign, your phone number, your email address, and what dates and times that you could work. June 15th is VHF Activity Day, designed to engage those primarily technician operators to experience simplex operation on the 2-meter, 223, and 446 megahertz bands. So get that VHF UHF station up and have some fun. Soon it'll be ARRL Summer Field Day on June 28th and 29th. The Okian Amateur Radio Society will be back at Mitchell Memorial Forest location and planning on setting up their 5-station event on Friday at 2 p.m. For more information or to volunteer to help, contact Field Day Chairman Eric, N8YC at N8YC123@gmail.com. The Northern Kentucky Amateur Radio Club will be operating Field Day from the Lincoln Ridge Park, 420 Independence Station Road in Independence, Kentucky. Be sure to check out ARRL.org/field-day for more information. Paddle Fest will be held on the weekend of August 2nd and looking for some amateur radio volunteers to assist with managing and deploying FRS radios to be used during this year's event. If you'd like to volunteer or help out, please contact Rick Halderman, KD4PYR at KD4PYR@fuse.net.
Repeater news.
Are you looking for the most up-to-date list of repeaters in the greater Cincinnati area? Well, I have an Excel spreadsheet where I've listed repeaters that are active in the area, separated by tabs for each band or mode, so you can easily look for just DMR repeaters or 2-meter analog repeaters and so on. The list includes 2 meters, 220, 440, 6 meters, D-Star, DMR, C4FM, P25, and some other classifications. Every time I update the file, I include the date and the file name so that you know you have the latest update. To download the file, go to the AB4WS Radio Show Facebook page and go to the file section and download the file. If you're not on Facebook, email me at ab4ws.radio@gmail.com and I can email you the latest file. If you see any errors, problems, additions, or corrections, email that information to ab4ws.radio@gmail.com.
Hamfest.
I hope to see many of you at the Dayton Hamvention May 16, 17, and 18, 2025 at the Greene County Fairgrounds in Xenia, Ohio. The 2025 theme is Radio Independence, celebrating evolution and freedom of radio in today's world. I plan on being there on Friday, so look me up and say hi. For more information, go to hamvention.org. On May 24th is the Scioto Valley Amateur Radio Club Hamfest, 8 a.m. to noon at the Pike County Fairgrounds, Piketon, Ohio. June 7th is the FCARC Summer Hamfest from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Delta American Legion Post 373 on the corner of Ohio 109 and County Road F5939 in Delta, Ohio. August 9th is the Cincinnati Hamfest, sponsored by the Milford Amateur Radio Club at the Claremont County Fairgrounds in Owingsville, Ohio. For more information, go to milfordhamradio.org. On August 9th is the Letcher County Amateur Radio Club Hamfest at the Mountain Shrine Club, 95 Maryland Drive in Whitesburg, Kentucky, from 8 a.m. to noon. They're already amassing a nice stash of door prizes from some great name brand sponsors. For more information, contact Roland Brown, AF4Y at AF4Y@REBROWN.org.
Are you looking to upgrade your license? Do you have someone else that's interested in the hobby? Here are some upcoming exam opportunities.
The Milford Amateur Radio Club holds amateur radio testing on the third Thursday of each month at 6 p.m. at the Miami Township Civic Center, 6101 Meyer Drive in Milford, Ohio. Please pre-register at milfordhamradio.org. The Dayton Amateur Radio Association has exams frequently. For their exam schedule, email exams.w8bi@gmail.com. On May 18th, the Geauga Amateur Radio Association will hold amateur radio testing at the Geauga County EOC, 12518 Merritt Road in Chardon, Ohio. For more information, email n8jmvw2@gmail.com. On May 19th at 5:30 p.m., the Northern Kentucky Amateur Radio Club will hold an amateur radio exam session at the Bethesda Community Church, 989 East Mount Zion Road in Independence, Kentucky. You must register by emailing Mark Volstead, AI4BJ@MVOLSTAD@TWSC.com. On June 10th, the Stubblefield Repeater Club will hold an amateur radio exam session at 6 p.m. at 200 Alpine Drive in Shelbyville, Kentucky. For more information, contact Cecil Harden, K5CPT, at 502-712-3400. On June 12th, the DeForest Amateur Radio Club will hold an amateur radio exam session at 6 p.m. at the Adams County Emergency Management Office, 31 Logan's Lane in West Union, Ohio. Please pre-register by emailing K8WEH@KH@ARRL.net or on the KHGE.net website. On Saturday, June 14th at 10 a.m., there'll be a W5YI amateur radio exam session at the Georgetown Police Department, 550 Bourbon Street in Georgetown, Kentucky. For information, contact Ron Malinowski at 502-542-8252. On June 14th, the Westchester Amateur Radio Club will hold an amateur radio testing session at 10 a.m. at the Voice of America Museum, 8070 Tylersville Road in Westchester, Ohio. For more information and to register, go to hamstudy.org/sessions/WC8VOA. On July 12th, the Westchester Amateur Radio Club will hold an amateur radio testing session at 10 a.m. at the Voice of America Museum, 8070 Tylersville Road in Westchester, Ohio. For more information and to register, go to hamstudy.org/sessions/WC8VOA. On August 14th at DeForest Amateur Radio Club will hold an amateur radio exam session at 6 p.m. at the Adams County Emergency Management Office, 31 Logan's Lane in West Union, Ohio. Please pre-register by emailing K8WEH@ARRL.net or check in on the K8GE.net website. On October the 9th, the DeForest Amateur Radio Club will hold an amateur radio exam session at 6 p.m. at the Adams County Emergency Management Office, 31 Logan's Lane in West Union, Ohio. Please pre-register by emailing K8WEH@ARRL.net or on the K8GE.net website. On December 11th, the DeForest Amateur Radio Club will hold an amateur radio exam session at 6 p.m. at the Adams County Emergency Management Office, 31 Logan's Lane in West Union, Ohio. Please pre-register by emailing K8WEH@ARRL.net or on the K8GE.net website. Special thanks to this week's content contributors: KE4WA, KY6MM, W8WTD, WX4GPS, KN4COE, KY4GW, WB8YYS, KD8ZLD, K9HIO, N8LAR, K4NKU.
If you have something you think other amateur radio operators in the area would be interested in, send the information or your recorded audio file attached in an email to ab4ws.radio@gmail.com.
Covering your amateur radio news and information in the greater Cincinnati, Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana tri-state area, this is Jack Prindle, AB4WS in Big Bone, Kentucky.